Tiesha was born to teenage parents in Joliet, Illinois. The city, once called the Stone City, going back to the 1800s for its limestone, is about 35 miles southwest of Chicago. Steel and coal also contributed tremendously to Joliet's economy, but by the early 1980s, the decline of industry had greatly affected the city. That's when Tiesha's grandmother moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, with a 4-year-old Tiesha in tow, seeking a better life for them both. Tiesha's mother would join them 3 years later. Between her parents, Tiesha has 8 younger siblings, 7 sisters, and 1 brother, and says they moved around a lot. And with her being the oldest, she had to grow up fast, real fast, but credits amazing educators with helping her stay on track. Tiesha, now a Grand Rapids Central High School cheerleader and honor student, is about to graduate high school. Next stop, Western Michigan University, where she's excelling, but at age 19, her sophomore year in college, she says her first adult life shift happens. And that's where we begin this conversation tonight. Tiesha, I gave you.
Hey,
I can hear you. We can hear you. You're good. Can you hear me?
but it's not syncing. It's not syncing. Like your words and your lips aren't syncing. Are mine?
Yes. Yes. We can
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, we're just gonna roll with it. We can hear you great. And my apologies for
Okay.
giving you two extra siblings.
Yeah.
I gave you
Maybe
two extra.
maybe we gonna learn something in the next couple of years. I don't know.
So if you had 2 extra siblings, would it be 2 more girls, 2 more boys, a boy and a girl? What would you choose if you had a choice?
If I had 2 more siblings, and on my dad's side, it would probably be 2 more girls because he got 100% track record with girls.
I see. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. We're going to have a conversation. And if people would like to comment or if they have questions, they may do so as well. They can write right there in the comments and we'll throw them up on the screen. But I called you yesterday because
Can
can you hear
me,
me?
John? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you fine. I can hear
Okay.
you great.
I'm gonna relax now. I
Yeah.
just
Okay.
it's not as
And
smooth
you
as I want it to be, but I'm gonna
don't
relax.
worry about that. Don't worry about that. And you look amazing. You look great,
Thank
Queen.
you. Thank
So you
you.
made a
Thank you.
post a couple of days ago, and I'm going to read the post for those who may not have seen it. You said, I drunk the Kool-Aid, and while each win brought me a sense of accomplishment, I'm still empty. Kool-Aid recipe. Graduate from college, check. Done twice. First generation graduate with 3 degrees. Get married, check. Done. Now divorced with a lifetime movie-worthy content. Buy a house, check. Done. Twice. And home ownership is overrated. I panic at least once a month with costs for unexpected maintenance. Move to the suburbs for the best schools, check. Done. But no one talks about the suburban school drug problems. Kids have unlimited access to money. Racial tensions at school, and kids make bad choices because being a thug is trendy. The Kool-Aid is a false recipe for success. True success is living a life of joy with solid companionship, and I'm praying for both.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read that, I, like many people, it shook me because we're told if we do this, then this happens, we do this, and then this happens, and we do that, and then that happens. But your post would suggest, and we all know, not so. Often that is not the case. First, before we talk about what happened when you were 19 years old, let's go there first. Let's talk about, I said we're going to go there. Let's talk about that life shift at 19 years old and how it changed your life.
Well, that was when I learned I was pregnant with my son. I was a sophomore at Western, and I that was really the first time like I really thought about like I need to grow up and like really grow up. And that was the first time I felt like I disappointed my grandfather, who was the male figure in my life. Um, I was doing everything he told me to do up until that point, and I had to prove to him that this was my doing, and I'm going to move forward with this child without, I'm not going to try to move in. I'm going to make it work on my own, because um, that would have opened a lot of criticism, a lot of, I mean, he was old school, you know. So that
Okay.
was a shift, and that was definitely a shift.
Did you finish college? Did you stay in school at that time, or did
Yep,
you?
yeah. I stayed in school the whole time I was pregnant. I transferred to Grand Valley because I wanted to be by my mom, and I had TJ in September. I did spring summer classes. I didn't take a break until the fall semester when I had him, and then by the time he was 4 months, I was back enrolled in school because I had to prove to my grandfather that I was still going to do everything he wanted me to do.
What did your grandfather say when you told him you were pregnant? How pregnant were you when?
Uh, that I like I never know to this day if like one of my family members told him, but I like made them swear like don't tell him, and then he popped up in Grand Rapids. I was like 7 months, but by then I had my own place, so I was so proud to show him because I was visibly pregnant, and he did not scold me. It was nothing like I thought it was going to be. And I'm so grateful for that, because that would have set me back emotionally. I needed his approval.
Mm, it's powerful. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and see what some of the folks are saying real quick, and we'll continue the conversation. Kimberly Camp says she's here for it.
Hey, Kim.
God bless you, sis, for sharing. You know, a funny story. I named Kimberly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when her mom was pregnant, my aunt Linda, I named her. I said you should name her Kimberly. Jasmine, thank you for watching. Cynthia Walker, AC Walk.
Hey, cousin.
Let's see, Kim Sims. Hello, big brother and Tiesha. So good to see you.
Hey, Kim.
Kim says overrated indeed. I think she's talking about home
Home
ownership.
ownership. Yes.
That's my god sister right there. Thank
Linda
you.
Ray. Oh, yay.
Yeah,
I'm in
love
love with
her.
Grand Valley.
Yes, that's my god sister. Uh, Joeen Guyton.
Hey,
Thank you
Mona.
for watching. She says you look so pretty.
Mariah, she sent me these. I got on her lashes tonight, so I got to shout out my sister. I don't wear lashes. I told her I would wear them tonight for her. So thank you, Mariah.
Kim says, yes, you did. I did. I did. So brave. Thank you for sharing your story. Be known. John got too many stories. I do. That's what happens when you're an old man. She says, so encouraging. Yo, hello. And that's the one and only, Julian Robinson. So let's get back into your story a little bit. I just wanted to acknowledge those. And if somebody has a question and they're watching, feel free by all means to ask a question. I want to know, before we get into the meat of the story as to where the post came from, what was going through your mind when you made that post? What got you to that point where you felt like, I'm going to share this with everybody? I'm going to put this out there.
I've been just emotionally and mentally exhausted. And I feel like I struggle because I feel like I'm so blessed that how I have the audacity, to still feel like something is missing, struggling with anxiety, struggling with depression, and just struggling, feeling like, am I ungrateful? But I've been sitting with this feeling for probably 2 years. And it finally was like, I know I'm not ungrateful because nothing was given to me. But, I know people in worse situations. I know people that don't have as much. I know people that have more. But something is missing, and I don't feel fulfilled. And some days I just ramble. I just ramble on, social media. I probably should get a journal, but I mean, I have a journal. I probably should ramble in my journal and not so much on social media, but I was just compelled to make a post. I never thought it would get, as much attention. So I think that speaks to the number of people that can relate,
Mhm.
you know.
And social media can be used as a journal because it's there, it's not going anywhere. So you can always go back and look at it. It's just a journal that you're sharing with everybody versus something that's beside your bed and only you can see what's in it. But I do believe by you sharing tonight, you will help somebody, you will encourage somebody, you'll inspire somebody. Not everybody, most of us don't have it all figured out, no matter what it looks like, no matter what our zip code is, no matter what kind of vehicle we drive or the clothes we wear or the purses you ladies carry. That most of us don't have it figured out. I've not met anybody who has it all figured out. So before we go into some more detail about your journey, I do want to share the package about you being from Joliet for the people who've come on because most people didn't see it. So I'm going to share that. It's only a minute and then we'll come back. If anybody has any questions or want to encourage Tiesha, this all came about because Tiesha made a post. She drunk the Kool-Aid. She did what she did. She's done what she's done, but she says, I'm still empty. And that's what the conversation is about tonight. And how do we what's the solution for you to feel that void that you're feeling, that emptiness? So we'll be right back. Tiesha was born to teenage parents in Joliet, Illinois. The city, once called the Stone City, going back to the 1800s for its limestone, is about 35 miles southwest of Chicago. Steel and coal also contributed tremendously to Joliet's economy, but by the early 1980s, the decline of industry had greatly affected the city. That's when Tiesha's grandmother moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, with a 4-year-old Tiesha in tow, seeking a better life for them both. Tiesha's mother would join them 3 years later. Between her parents, Tiesha has 8 younger siblings, 7 sisters, and 1 brother, and says they moved around a lot. And with her being the oldest, she had to grow up fast, real fast, but credits amazing educators with helping her stay on track. Tiesha, now a Grand Rapids Central High School cheerleader and honor student, is about to graduate high school. Next stop, Western Michigan University, where she's excelling, but at age 19, her sophomore year in college, she says her first adult life shift happens. And that's where we begin this conversation tonight.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. So
Okay.
what do you think when you see that?
Wow, thank you, John. You're gonna have to send me that.
Well, that's not what I was looking for. I appreciate it, but I was just wondering, seeing that in just a minute, which is kind of what you told me in our conversation last night. But to see it on screen sometimes, it does something. It says, That was my story. So let's hop into at 19, you got pregnant, you had TJ, and since that time you've had another daughter.
Yep.
And right now, how are your kids doing?
Hold on one second. I gotta. Okay. Got a little sniffles. My kids are doing good. My daughter Tristan. She's in the 5th grade. Um, she's playing the flute. She's in gymnastics. She's, a girly girl. Um, my son is, he's going through some challenges, but nothing that's too big for us. Um, I'm just enjoying this, trying my best to enjoy and learn how to be the best mother I can be, because I'm learning that the job isn't over at 18. So,
Correct. So you said you moved to the suburbs for the best schools. And in conversation last night, you were talking about the drugs. So let's talk a little bit about that. Share with the people, because I think a lot of times that's what we do. We move to the suburbs because it's a better way of life, and our kids, we want them to go to the what we consider the best schools. Our kids went to similar schools where there was a lot of drug activity happening right there, and they would tell us about it. So tell us about your journey and what you discovered, and how old was TJ when you realized what was going on?
well, I always knew that I wanted to not live in the inner city in whatever town I lived in. Of course, I thought I was gonna raise kids outside of West Michigan, but this is, what it is. And I learned when I was in college that the admission process, at the time, there was some system where, depending on your district, you weighed more or less. And once I learned that, I was like, well, when I have kids, because I learned that the inner cities, the urban school districts, did not have as many points, or I don't know the exact terminology, but it was a lesser scale than counterparts that I had that were from, I'm coming from Central High School, Grampus Public Schools, and counterparts that graduated from Forest Hills or Northern, they had a different point system than what I had when it came to college admissions. So of course we want to give our kids the best opportunities. And I said, when it's time for TJ to, by the time he's in the 3rd grade, I'm going to make sure that I'm settled in a good district. And I really wasn't set out for Granville. I was working at Grand Valley, and it was just easier. It's a close community. I didn't want Jenison. I felt like Granville was a little more diverse than Jenison. So he was in the 3rd grade. But before I say that, I have to say, first and 2nd grade, he was in Allendale Public Schools because I worked at Grand Valley, and it was just easier. I was a single mom. And I will never forget. The first year I was like, okay, this works, because there's a couple of colleagues that has their kids in that school district, and it works. Convenient, can get to the school in 5 minutes. And then the next year, I remember he started being really hyper, and I was getting so many phone calls. And I'll never forget, the teacher said to me,
That was 3rd grade.
this is now we're in the 2nd grade, but we're still in Allendale. The teacher said, he just keeps playing street ball on the playground. And I said, well, what's that? What's street ball? And she's like, well, like street ball. I was like, no, I don't know what you mean. And I said, yep, he's gonna finish. I said to myself, he's gonna finish this school year, and then I'm pulling him out, because I told myself they teach in that district because that's the population that they want to teach to. So
Right.
okay, so the next best district was Granville, because it's still close to my job. And TJ had a really good experience. Our neighborhood elementary school it was more diverse. I was very impressed. Um, Not too much diversity amongst administration, but I was impressed with, him having classmates. It wasn't, 50-50, but it was better than what I thought it would be. It was much better than Allendale. And he stayed in that district, and I think because he was an athlete, um, he had a different experience. That it could have been worse, but we did have some issues, you know, and when he was in the 5th grade, there was a kid that like made a whip, quote unquote, out of clay and was chasing him around the classroom saying, "You're my slave, you're my slave." And I took that all the way up to the district administration, like, you need to do something. And every time he would tell me something, I would jump on it and get the whole story, because sometimes kids, you know, they
Our
don't.
kids.
Yeah, kids are kids.
Yeah.
But he started telling me about the drugs in middle school. And he was still really naive and very, we still had really open and honest communication. And he was just like, yeah, they asked me if I wanted to um, smoke some weed with them. And I'm like, okay, well, what did you say? And he's like, no, because he's still really vain about his body. And then by the time he got to the high school, I remember I took him some money up to the school, and I seen, drug dogs in the hallway. And I was like, oh,
Now, for
okay.
somebody who doesn't know, who's watching, what's a drug dog?
Well, canines that were sniffing.
Oh, you meant literally a drug dog.
Literally. What did you think I meant?
I thought it was some slang. I thought it was something. I'm an old guy. I thought maybe it was something. So they were
Literally
literally
canines in the hall. And I was like, oh. So I'm asking him, like, what's going on? And he's like, Mom, these kids got
everything.
endless. They got endless supply of money. They got ATM cards. They got credit cards. He got allowance. He didn't have those things, and we definitely don't have an endless supply of money. But he's like, they pop pills, and then that's when vaping became the thing. And he was honest. He was like, Mom, it's odorless, and they just vape in the bathroom in between classes, and it's only so long that it's, if you don't have a strong will, it's only so long that you can be surrounded by that
So do
and
you
not.
think? So you don't think that you said that you grew up in a drug infested area with various behaviors going on in the apartment next door and all that? None of that shaped your thought process about maybe one day living in the suburbs? You don't think?
Of course it did.
Okay.
Of course it did. But my absolute deal breaker was like learning about the college admissions and how that would put, the kids at an advantage. But absolutely, like, I mean, I grew up in the Black Hills, and we had raid trucks all the time, people always fighting. And, we saw a lot of stuff, like just walking to the bus stop, I'm getting harassed by, drug dealers trying to holler at me. I mean, it's just, I did not want to have children, growing up like that. So yeah, absolutely. But I knew it wasn't going to be that. It like, cause you could still live in a nice neighborhood and live in the city of Grand Rapids. I just, yeah, that wasn't going to happen for my kids.
But you realize going to the suburb that a lot of what's happening in the inner city is happening in the suburbs, but in a different way.
You exchange one set of problems for another. That's the best way I look at it. Like, it's real covert, you know. It's
When do you think you and TJ, that open communication that the two of you had, when did that change? When did you
um
notice the change?
I think I think as he changed into, he started to turn into a young man, and there were things that he didn't want me to know. And I mean, just being a teenager, my mom didn't know everything, but there, he knows what my values are. He knows what I'm no nonsense about. Um, and yeah.
Okay. Now, when we talked last night, you said you didn't want to go into detail about what's happening with him. That was the only thing that was off limits. But you did say earlier in the conversation that he's in a situation,
Hmm.
and you're prayerful and hopeful that things work out as best they can. How are you dealing with that? And a lot of people are watching who know you already know what's happening. But how do you deal with that day to day? What is your day like?
Truthfully, um,
No sense in you stop being honest
I
now.
know, like I'm
Transparent.
just trying to I am literally trying to get, like they say, day by day. I'm trying to get through hour by hour. I feel like um I'm on a wild train wreck, and I didn't do, it's not none of my doing, but I'm going to ride this thing out and it's going to be fine.
So hour to hour.
I could be fine. I could wake up and be fine, first thing in the morning, and maybe at 3 o'clock, I just want to go to bed because it's just, but I'm not the first family, and we won't be the last family, and it's going to be, my faith is all that I have to hold on to.
What is Tristan saying, your daughter?
Um,
What is she thinking with all of this? What's happening? What is she feeling? How is she doing?
I don't really want to go into that, if
Okay.
that's okay, because she's so little.
Okay. All right. Uh you said that, and I don't know who your husband is. I'm not interested
Was my
in
husband.
your husband, who your husband, who your husband was, but you said now divorced with a lifetime movie worthy content. If you had some things to do all over again as it relates to your life and where you are now and what's happening with you, what would you do differently, do you think, if you had an opportunity, or if some young lady is listening or a young girl is watching tonight, what advice would you give them, and what would you do differently?
I would, I was really like trying to please my grandparents. You know, I I did everything, to the best of my ability, that they set these goals for me, and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I would just try to figure out what I like, what I want to do, if that means, you know, not going to school right away, or, I mean, I don't know. I really um I really would tell them, and I also have to realize that a lot of the women that were pouring into me, strong women, albeit, and I know that they had my best interest, but truthfully, looking back, I was getting molded by some women that still had their own deep rooted issues. And I feel like a lot of those perspectives were passed on to me before I got to experience my own life and, develop my own experiences. So,
You think marriage was one of those things? Give me an example of some of those things.
absolutely, I, and let me just say, Tristan's dad is an amazing dad to her, and we co-parent very well. But I can say that I got married for the wrong reasons. I had this checklist, and that's because, like, my grandmother got married at 18. She was the stay-at-home mom. She didn't know how to drive until my mom was in high school. She never worked, and she was always like, you make your own money, you have your own stuff. If you got this, then they should have this. And it wasn't anything about make sure you fall in love, that wasn't that wasn't instilled. So this man, we were both educated. We had we went we could go toe to toe, and he completed everything that was on my list. And
But love.
I wasn't in love, but love was there.
Yeah.
And you should never, like, that's what I would tell any young person. You shouldn't, if you're not completely in love, equally yoked. I was telling someone, yeah, we went to church, but you need that relationship, and I didn't have those things. So I had to pay a price for that. And that's where a Lifetime movie comes in.
We won't go into detail. We won't go. We won't. We won't go there. Let's go ahead and check out some of these comments, and then we're going to chat for another 10 minutes or so. Uh, let's see. Uh, Mika. Okay, we did that. Hey, great story. Be encouraged. Thank you, brother, for watching. Thank you, Allison. Doing Queen. Yep, it was indeed powerful. Hey, Lou Cuz from William Graylock says he's proud of you.
Hey, Will.
Seawalk, love it. Nice introduction. Thank you, Queen. Uh, all right, QP. D'Amica says one of the reasons my mom wouldn't let me go to Kellogg'sville High School, drug use is so high in those schools, more than just marijuana. Thank you, D'Amica, for your comment. And we lost Tiesha, so we'll just read some of the comments until she gets back. Constant prayer and faith in God. Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. The police used to overlook the drugs and liquor at Christian high school unless Black people were involved. Insane. Amen, sis. India says, sending you love. Thank you for your transparency. Absolutely. That's what you're doing. You totally, you all the way here. Dejanay Carter has a heart there. Absolutely, Seawalk. She got this. My god sister says, she says, I feel you. They're just showing you lots of love. Lots of love. Uh, I think your transparency will help somebody. And your greater is coming. Like it's coming. You got it. You got it all. It's coming. And you said that uh, you just wanted to be filled. And you said before we got to the comments, you said that a lot of women had passed on to you their stuff. So you would tell young ladies, do you, I think is what I'm hearing there, is to do you. It's good to listen to people. And when you're seeking advice, it's good to get a couple of different opinions, perhaps. But I think what you're saying is you got to know who you are and make some choices for your life yourself.
Absolutely. And I've mentored young ladies. I have nieces, they know they can always call me. And when I get a question because of my experience, I have to pause and ask myself before I say this, am I saying this from a broken place? And if so, I may be like, you know what, you better ask your mom, because I might tell you something that might send you in the wrong direction. Because you never know how much weight your word has with the young person that looks up to you. And I think I got some stuff passed on to me, and I held on to it.
Mhm.
So yeah, and when you're a young lady, you can't really know who you are if you're holding on to everybody's stuff. So yeah.
Mhm. Do you think you would have gotten to this place of this realization had it not been for some of the things that you've gone through lately? Or do you think that's a big part of why you are where you are? And you believe that on the other side of all of this, it'll be good?
I do believe that. Um, I have to believe that. But I hope none of this was for naught. That's what you hear from wise counsel, that everything is for a reason. And I think now I'm just really waiting for the pieces to connect. And when you're in that space and you're dealing with the anxiety and the depression and the worry and the sleepless nights, it is harder to be patient, to have clarity. But yeah, I'm holding on to the principle that this is not happen. None of this stuff that happened, everything is for a reason.
What was the first thing that when you woke up this morning, what was the first thing you thought about? What's the first thing that came to your mind when you woke up this morning?
My daughter's about to be late for school. But I have been thinking about our conversation and just hoping that, like I said, what's off limits is off limits, and that I don't misrepresent myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think you're misrepresenting yourself. And, you're probably not interested at this point in time, but I wouldn't be surprised if some fellas see this and they say, whoa, who, who is who is that? Fellas hit me up from other parts of the country. Who was that on the live of the other night? Well, this is what I believe, and this is why I called you the other day after I read your post. And you and I have been communicating a little bit over the last couple 4 or 5 months. I'd hit you up after seeing something else that you had written. So we've had some pretty extensive conversation. But I just think that you are being set up for something far beyond you can even imagine. And I'm not talking about a man, a relationship. I'm just saying what I
I mean,
believe.
you can though.
But I think that you are. I think some amazing stuff is coming out of you. I really do. I really do. That's what I believe that wholeheartedly. And 10, 15 years from now, you're going to look back on this period and we're going to say, wow, I cannot believe that I got through that. But you will get through it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you will get through it. Avalon says, as my grandfather would say, keep the meat, spit out the bones.
Hey, Avalon.
Absolutely. Well, it's we've got what, 5 minutes? I think we've got 5 minutes left, and we'll close by this question.
Uh-oh.
In addition to your son, which we're not going to go into detail about, but in addition to that, what could happen outside of that? Of course, that I understand, but what could happen in the immediate future, do you think, to help feel that emptiness and that void that you feel, that would help some of that depression that you talk about, wanting to go to bed at 3 p.m. in the afternoon? What do you think? What's something that you think would help that? And for all the saints, I understand prayer. Absolutely. I got it. I got that. You're doing a lot of that. That's not what I'm talking about. Absolutely prayer. I don't want to, I don't want people to think that we're not considering prayer. We talked about that earlier. But for Tiesha, what do you think could help fill that emptiness that you feel, that void, and bring that depression down? And while you think about that, I have a really close friend that lives in another town, and their depression today was, on a scale from 1 to 10, it was probably about a 25. So it's real. But we don't talk about it. We're told pray everything, just pray it, and it'll all be, but it's real. And I'm not deducing the power of prayer whatsoever. I don't want anybody to think that, but it's real.
What would that be for Tiesha?
Yes.
I am still trying to figure that out. if I can be really honest, meditating. I have some really amazing friends, and my sisters are my rock. I'm trying to, like Ayanla say, do the work and really um, eliminate the waste. What do I need to let go? Look in the mirror, be honest with myself, um, and that's hard work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And acknowledge my triggers, and just dig into like royalty. That's a healthy distraction. Dig into my daughter, and just keep my loved ones close to me, because I definitely need them.
Is there anything that you want to say in closing that has not already been said? Is there anything that you want to share? Lots of people are watching you, and there's a lot of love, a lot of support, and I think that will help you get through. I always say, if you believe in God, I do, but God could have given us everybody our own world had He wanted to. I believe He's that powerful. If that's what He chose to do, could have given Tiesha a world. Could have given me a world. He could have given, but He didn't do that. We're here together, so it's for a reason. And I think that people and the support will help carry you through this particular time. What would
Yeah.
you like to say in closing that has not been said that you'd like for people to know, or something maybe to encourage somebody else who may be that 19-year-old girl, sophomore in college, who comes back with a positive pregnancy test? Did
Ooh, we ain't got enough time to talk to her because she won't listen.
well, talk to her anyway.
But no, I guess reverting back to the post in terms of I drunk the Kool-Aid, I think that we need to be careful with the amount of pressure we put on young people, especially juniors and seniors in high school. Every parent wants to see their kid, on the dean's list at Yale or University of Michigan, absolutely. But we have to let these kids grow into what God designed for them. It may not be the plans that we have for them. And that's what I meant by drinking the Kool-Aid. Like I had my, my checklist, and what, I don't know what 19-year-old Tiesha would have um chose to explore. I don't even remember what my interests were, you know. I don't know, but I think we need to stop putting so much pressure on these young kids because they deal with a lot of pressure. They live in a very different world than what we grew up in. I don't understand it, but I think we need to let them tap into their creativity and talk instead of talking to them so much and like drilling college. Like I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that every time I'm around a young person. But maybe ask them, what are you passionate about? What are some things you want to learn about? When you're on your phone, what are you Googling? What are some things that you want to do with your spare time? What would you like to do to make money if everyone wasn't forcing you to go to college? And because we just, I don't know, we got to do better. And I do realize that the formula worked for a lot of people. you know it didn't work for me in terms of being fulfilled, and
Mhm.
I have to be okay with.
Yeah, you said that with every win, you felt a sense of accomplishment.
Mhm.
So the wins count. You just said I'm still empty, and
Yeah,
that's real.
I was pregnant with my daughter and engaged when I got my master's degree, but I wasn't in a healthy relationship. So yeah, that day it was awesome. It was amazing. I celebrated with family, but I mean, there was just some stuff that I still needed to work on, and I don't know if I would have even went down that route if, you know, I was, more in tune with what I wanted to do with my life. And then I went from literally being 18, 19 to being a single mom. So it wasn't even about Tiesha anymore. That's why I said I can't even tell you what my interests were.
Wow. Couldn't even tell us what your
Mm-mm,
interests were.
mm-mm.
So you're just going through the motions.
I was going through the motions. I mean, and I grew up that way. Like, I was the second mom. You know how it is when you're the oldest. And I was like, I'm never having kids. You know, I'm just gonna live my life. And I had like a year and a half. But then, you know, it was like beast mode. Like, it was no breaks. I got a child, and I got to show my granddaddy that I can do it without relying on his help. And that's what I did. But I wasn't for, I mean, and I'm here now, and it's like, dang, what was all that for? And that's what I say to my sisters when we have our heart to hearts, like, what was that even for? If you can, you know, I want to wake up joyous. You know, I think it's about having a companion, you know, that you guys have a connection. I no longer think, you know, it's all about degrees. And, you know, I have a total different perspective now, because these kids are going to get grown and they're going to move out. And I don't want to be by myself. You know, it's just, I just think of things much differently.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been wonderful. And the comments, I'm telling you, I'm excited to just witness where you're headed.
I want to see the comments.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
many of them I'm putting on the screen, but because you had to switch over to your phone, you
Yeah.
can't see them because they're small.
Yeah.
So my god sister says, right. Hey, this has been great.
This
And
went by fast.
huh?
This went by fast, like
Yeah.
you predicted. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully in another 4 or 5 months, or whenever you want to come back on to let the people know how you're doing, because people are going to be asking, "How's that pretty girl that you had on? How's she doing? What's going on with her? Did some fella hit her up and swoop her off her feet?"
We will see. No.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you, love and peace, and as always, you know, whatever I can do. Uh, Mila says, "Woo, we need a family video after this." Is
That's
that one?
my auntie. Hey, auntie.
That's your, okay.
Uh-huh.
Hey, AT. Thanks for watching. Is she local?
No, she's in St. Louis.
Okay, she's in St. Louis. All
Hmm.
right. We appreciate her watching. Michael Kitchen, my brother in Atlanta, says awesome. Billie Jean Johnson, that's one of your sorors.
Yep.
Did you want to do it? You want to do a little ski week for your sorors?
Ski.
And on that note, good night. I
Good night.
appreciate you, and we'll do it. We'll do it again.
Thanks, John.
All right.